By the early 60s, David spent much of his time hanging out at his Uncle Manny's club, the Cafe Wah in New York City, where he witnessed performances by artists such as Bob Dylan and Jimi Hendrix.
New York certainly more closely reflects the dinner table that I grew up at when I was a kid. It either encouraged you mightily or discouraged you totally. Obviously, it encouraged me.
When Roth's family relocated to Pasadena, California, David's passion for rock music intensified, and with the Sobolewski's recent move from the Windy City to nearby Arcadia, California in 1966, the stars aligned like notes on a perfect scale, with all the future members of the classic Van Halen lineup living in the same area. In 1971, teenagers Alex and Eddie Van Halen and friend Dennis Travis formed a new group, the Trojan Rubber Company. During the band's performances, Alex would often show off his accomplished drumming skills by playing Toad, the 20-minute drum solo made famous by Ginger Baker of Cream.
You look at some of the riffs that Ginger Baker did on the end of some songs, and you'll find that there's that lineage from Cream to Van Halen too. We learn from our elders. We pass it down. If you're looking at Alex, he's looking at Ginger Baker when he's growing up, and you're looking at Eddie, he's looking at Eric Clapton. Now, you listen to Eric Clapton and you listen to Eddie Van Halen, you're not going to hear either one in each of them. But Eddie can sit there and play lick for lick anything that Eric ever did.
Ed would sit there and listen for hours on end to Eric Clapton. That was basically Clapton, I think. And you can't help but sit there, and when you try to emulate these people, it kind of gets into your fingers.
I know Clapton that was the thing. I mean, they would warm up on Cream songs every day. I mean, now, it's hard to make that sit and move forward. It's a very stationary, vertical thing. But they could do that.
Dave listened to a lot of different music, you know, a lot rather than just the real popular stuff. You have to get it from somewhere. It either has to come from within, and if you don't have it within, then you have to get it from whatever is around you. We went down to a place that they were playing when we were like 15 or 16. I mean, this is how early Eddie and Alex were playing. We went to see him at this venue, and it was just a small place, but it was jammed, and they were in there, and they were doing Black Sabbath stuff is what Eddie and Alex were doing at that time, and Dave, and I think that was actually before Dave decided he really wanted to be a rock star, was when we went and saw that, and Dave saw all that energy and all that stuff in that room. It just sent a cold chill down your spine how good these guys were.
Van Halen first play in a band, and I wasn't in the band back in high school. I listened to him play, I watched him play, and I said, you know what he does with his hands, I want to do with my feet. I want to do with my voice. He was kind of a mentor of mine.
After playing together for only a year, Dennis Travis's father got a job as a minister at a church 300 miles away. Alex and Edward quickly found another bass player, Mark Stone, and changed the name of the band to Genesis.
I went and jammed. We called us, come over and jam and see what happens, and it happened.
I think one of the first real impacts was Mark Stone, the bass player.
It was amazing that there was 3 people that could make that much music.
I knew it early on that they were both virtuosos. You know, they were few legendary guitar players, and I knew Edward was on his way to being there. Alex was the leader. He was like the driving force that gave the band the direction.
Soon, the fledgling band discovered there was another outfit, a far more successful and established band from England, also known as Genesis. Scrapping the name, the band decided to call themselves Mammoth instead. Edward handled lead vocals as well as guitar, and they continued playing high schools and backyard parties in the area.
I was 15 years old, and I went and I saw this band, Mammoth. And at the time, everybody was talking about them. For them at the time, I think it was like a big venue. It was Pasadena City College. And I didn't know what to expect, and I go in there, and there's this guy, Eddie Van Halen, that everyone had been talking about, who just played guitar like you couldn't believe. There was an energy going on, and there was something happening, and there was, you know, this mass of people and this interest in what was going on, and you knew that it was more than just like, you know, a local band playing.
I mean, they really worked hard. They played their dues. You know, they played in the shittiest places, but lugging all that gear, you know, to the worst places, you know, biker bars and high school dances and all these clubs, and you're getting home at 4 or 5 and when you're burnt out, you know, and they probably played more gigs than anybody.
Every opportunity for a show, they went and played. No one ever said, got something else, too tired. Every opportunity, we had our foot in the door.
Across town, David Lee Roth was steadily developing his own over-the-top stage persona while fronting his band, Red Ball Jet.
They had been practicing in his dad's basement of his office building in San Marino. And they'd been practicing for about 4 or 5 months, and they was getting more antsy to do bigger venues and be, you know, more popular.
I only saw Red Ball Jet once at the Civic. They were playing cover tunes too, but I think they were a little different. I think they were more R&B, if I recall. I don't know if they had a horn player or a keyboard player or something. I remember them being a little bit not the norm, you know.
During the summer, there was a guy who put on shows at Hamilton Park in Pasadena. That's where we met Dave and Red Ball Jet.
I think the Battle of the Bands kind of helped draw two forces together. Because otherwise, I think they would have just been playing in separate backyard parties. But then when they played together and they both knew that they weren't gun shy. You know, we're ready to go, we'll battle any day. Edward and Alex, let's battle. Dave, let's battle. So there's 3 battle warriors right there. You put those 3 together and it's pretty tough.
Ed was a lead singer at that time, and you know, things started to kind of build up, and I started to notice that Ed couldn't really take the chores of being lead singer.
I think Edward and Alex wanted one other element. They needed that lead singer. At that time, you know, in the early 70s, it was kind of the look. You know, I mean, Cream worked with Jack Bruce singing, but Led Zeppelin was working better. You know, and Rolling Stones, you know, with the lead man.
We didn't have any PA equipment. When Red Ball Jet was out of work, when they didn't have a gig, I would approach Roth and ask him, you know, we'd like to rent your PA. And he would rent it to us. You know, give him $10. And this went on for a few months. And eventually I just said to Ed, look, you know, you're not really capable of being the front man and singer. I said, Ed, rather than paying Roth this $10 every time he rent his stuff, why not just get him in the band and we won't have to pay him $10, you know, and we'll have a lead singer. Because he, at that time, he walked around with a certain confidence that was good, I felt.
Dave and Van Halen decided that they would, you know, do it because they were good for each other. They were going to help each other.
And there was a lot of talk that there was a new singer in the band, that Eddie wasn't singing anymore. The first time that I saw him was at this party, and it was a big party. And out comes this guy, you know, with this bigger-than-life personality, and everybody's like, "Whoa, you know, this is different." You know, what Dave offered was the sexuality that was probably wasn't flamboyant before.
Everybody that I knew of at the time that was there, some of the early Van Halen gigs, had the same response. Probably the world's greatest guitar player, great band, singer's gotta go. And the reason for that was that Dave, at the time, was such a blatant clone, I mean that's really the word, of Jim Dandy.
The first time he came to see us was at Whiskey Go-Go after we'd already been playing concerts ourselves and doing some headlining. And everybody says there's like a young Jim Dandy down there somewhere. He was there with a home movie camera. I want to know if it's all right to take. He said, I mean, I really dig the way you do a show. Kind of thing that I want to be, sight as well as sound. I want to give them a show and make them happy. And you work hard. And I said, sure, take all you want. Like I say, everybody asked me, what do you think about David Lee Roth stealing your thing? And he just did nothing for me. I learned from other people too. I was the first one with blonde hair, and he did a couple of the moves and poses, but he's got his own thing, man. I love watching him. It's entertaining to me.
Most of us that initially did not like Dave really began to like him and acquire the taste for him.